Instead of next year being the 6th year that you set the same fat loss or the same health and fitness goals, I want to make sure that this is the year we take a different approach, that you actually follow through. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. My name is Brooks Herbis, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you simplify and make sense out of the all too confusing fitness and nutrition industry. Let's be real, there's a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change. But I'll also be sharing real-life practical application, because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can actually apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Today, we are talking all about how to make 2025 the year that you finally crush your fat loss goals. Because I want to start out by saying that January 1st is not just another day. And a lot of coaches will have you believing differently. They will say that we shouldn't be waiting until the new year to make a change, and New Year's resolutions don't work, and diets always fail, and just a lot of other really unhelpful negative things. And in fact, there's actually some pretty solid research to suggest that that's not true. There's a concept called temporal landmarks, and it's basically saying that significant points in time can lead to a sense of renewal and motivation, and can make you more likely to stick to new goals and new habits that you're trying to build around this time. And guess what? The start of a year is a really big temporal landmark. So instead of pretending that this is just another week, I want you to really harness this energy. But at the same time, even though we are feeling really motivated right now, even though we are feeling like we could conquer the world, we know that that energy doesn't always stick. But this year, I want it to for you. I want this year to be different. I want you to approach this year differently. And that's what this podcast episode is going to be about. It's not just how do we set goals, how do we get excited, how do we plan for the new year, but how do we make sure that this is the year that we're following through? Because how many times have you set goals at the new year, at January 1st, only to never follow through? Like maybe this is the 5th year in a row now that you've set the same weight loss goal because you still haven't hit it. And it's typically not that you don't want the goal bad enough. You obviously do. You're setting this goal again. This goal is really important to you, but it's just likely that life got busy, you forgot to prioritize it, or you never went about setting up the habits and the routines that you needed to in order to actually reach this goal in the first place. So instead of repeating this pattern this year again, instead of next year being the 6th year that you set the same fat loss or the same health and fitness goals, I want to make sure that this is the year we take a different approach, that you actually follow through. And later on in the podcast, we'll be talking about how to make sure that the goals you're setting are realistic, specifically about like new goals that you're trying to hit. But first, I want to start with a little bit of honesty hour. Because if you are in this place right now of feeling stuck, if you are someone who has set the same goal over and over, then we need to really do some reflection. And first up, most importantly, I do not want you to be upset with yourself or have a lot of guilt or feel frustrated about the past year. That's not the goal. The goal isn't to make you feel badly. But the truth is that if we are always only focused on moving forward and we never take the time to reflect, we're not learning. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of coaching fails. Right now there's this big trend of, okay, well, it just happened and we need to move on. And we can't feel guilty about it and we need to move on. And well, that's true. Well, I don't want you to feel guilty about it. Well, I do want you to be able to move on without that guilt. If we're never reflecting, we're never learning. We're never realizing why we're making these mistakes in the first place. So we're never giving ourselves the opportunity to get better, to make improvements. We're not figuring out how this time can be different. So we need to do that. We need to take that reflection, because unfortunately, it's not just about trying a little bit harder, or it's not that you just need more motivation or you just need work to slow down. Like, let's be real, your day-to-day life, just because it's January 1st, it's not changing all that much in the next 30 days. Your motivation won't magically increase on February 28th. It's not going to magically increase overnight if it hasn't struck yet. You're not going to magically have all of a sudden your work responsibilities slow down. All of a sudden your kids aren't going to no longer need you. Like, your life over the next 30 days is not going to look that much different than it did on October 2024. So if you weren't making progress towards your goals in October, it's time to change things so that you are making progress towards your goals in January. We need to change our approach, because nothing changes if nothing changes. If you go into these next 12 months approaching it in the exact same way you approached the last 12, hoping that your motivation increases, telling yourself you just need more willpower, waiting for work to magically slow down, then nothing's going to change. You're not going to be any closer to your goals in the next 3 months, let alone the next 12. So instead, it's time to get specific. I want you to look back at this last year, and I want you to think about what went well and what actually helped you reach your goals. What are the things that you're really proud of? Take a moment, write that down, maybe even pause this podcast episode. What went well? Now, on the flip side, where is there area for opportunity? What are the things that made it harder for you to reach your goals? Did you have no accountability and you kept telling yourself that you know what you need to do, but at the end of the day, you couldn't seem to get yourself to do it? Maybe you need to hire a coach like myself to help you finally take action. Are you setting unrealistic goals for yourself and then you throw in the towel when you can't be perfect? Are you only focusing on calories but you're constantly stressed, so you're falling prey to snacking? AKA, are you focusing on the right things that you personally actually need to hit your goals? Or are you just focusing on what you've heard you quote unquote need to, and maybe it's not the best course for you? This is the time to really dive into why you're struggling to be successful, why the past 12 months did not go the way you thought they would, and what do you need to change to see more results moving forward? What do you need to change to see results this year? All right, have you pressed pause? Have you written that down? Have you identified what's not working? Great. Write it down. We're going to keep that top of mind moving forward. Because now it's time to get a little bit more specific towards your goals. This could be the reason you didn't make much progress this past year. If you were only focused on outcome-based goals like losing weight, it's really hard to make progress. This year, whether it's with that old goal that you still haven't hit or a new goal, some sort of new routine or habit that you're trying to build, I want you to get specific about the actions you need to take in order to get to that bigger outcome goal. And break it down into daily or weekly actions you'll need to take in order to actually move the needle on your weight loss progress. So, for example, let's say you have a goal this year to lose weight. That's your big overarching goal. And maybe that was the goal that you went into 2024 with. Like, hey, I'm going to lose weight. Great. Love that big overall goal. But how are you actually going to do that? What are the daily, what are the weekly actions you need to take to help you lose weight? Do you need to cook more meals at home? Maybe you stop on the drive-thru every single day on your way home from a long work days, so you know in order to lose fat, you need to eat more at home. Do you need to hit your calories X days out of the month? You need to get your consistency up. Do you need to stop going to Starbucks and getting a $400 calorie coffee every morning? Maybe that's making you really hungry and it's taking up a lot of calories that you don't have. So you need to change that in order to lose fat. Like, get really specific. What are the daily and the weekly actions you need to start focusing on in order to reach those goals? Now, then the next thing that goes along with this is I want you to start with 1 to 3 daily or weekly actions. Many people, especially on the start of the new year, when we are like all gung-ho, we have all this motivation, we go too hard. We go from 0 to 100. And we start with like 10 new things that we're trying to incorporate into our life. And that feels okay right now when we're really motivated. But 2 weeks from now, when work gets busy and we get stressed and our kids still need a lot of time and attention, I say our kids. I don't have kids, but a lot of my clients do. So I know what that's like. That feels overwhelming. And so instead of scaling back, we feel like that would be a failure. And so we just stop completely. So that's the other thing I want you to change about the goals that you're setting this year. I want you to start small. I want you to think about just 1 to 3 daily or weekly actions that you're going to take to get closer to that big overarching goal you have. Now write those down. Then we're going to take it one step further. And I want you to think about what's behind those goals. So, for example, especially if this is a goal that you're resetting from last year, hitting your calories. Why is that sometimes hard for you? Why do you struggle with consistency? Do you fall into all or nothing thinking? Are you out of touch with your hunger cues and you feel like you always need to finish your plate? Are you lacking some education around how to properly fuel your body? Think about the gap between the habit and the routine that you want to keep up with and why you're falling short on it right now. And as we head into the new year, I want you to keep remembering that nothing changes if nothing changes. If there's that gap, if something has been holding you back from reaching your goals, it's not going to just magically disappear overnight. And the really cool thing, one of the things I love about being a coach, is that I get to chat with a lot of you guys on social media about your goals, about your fitness journey, about what's working well. And I can tell you, based off all of these conversations, it is so common for me to talk to someone and then a year later, they're still struggling with the same things. They still have the same goals. They still want these same things for themselves just as badly, but nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you've got a gap right now, if there's a reason why consistency is feeling so hard, why you keep going to that drive-through after work, why you continue to not follow through, we need to close that gap. Because how many times will you stay stuck, spinning your wheels, chasing the same goal month after month, never seeing results before you say, I've had enough? Maybe it's time to realize that you'd reach your goals a heck of a lot quicker if you had someone helping you work through this. Because I can tell you what, my clients sure as heck are not staying stuck for 6 months or even 3 months. They're taking action, and they're often telling me that their biggest regret is not starting coaching sooner, because it can be really hard to close that gap on your own. It can be hard to even identify that gap. Some of you might be listening to this saying, I don't even know what that gap is. Like, I know I'm not hitting my calories super consistently. I know that I'm not getting to the gym as frequently as I want to, but I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like I have all the education. I feel like I keep telling myself I know what to do. I just can't get myself to actually do it. That can be the benefit of having an outsider who's helped hundreds of women do this before come in and figure out what that gap is for you. Because I actually had a client who was in this same spot, setting the same New Year's goal year after year. She wanted to lose 20 pounds. She kept setting that same goal January 1st until January of 2023, which is when she hired me. Now, we are 2 years in. Not only did she lose over 15 pounds, she maintained that for multiple months. She significantly improved her relationship with food and her body and ditched her all or nothing thinking. And now she's actually in a completely different spot with her health and fitness journey. She's pregnant. She's focusing on having a really healthy and active pregnancy. And she's in such a good spot mentally and physically during this pregnancy because she is no longer caring so much about the scale and how much weight she's losing. Because it turns out that setting that same goal year after year after year, it wasn't always about the fat loss. She wanted more confidence. She wanted to feel better in her body. She wanted to have more energy. And now she has all of those things, and all she needed to do was to have someone help her close that gap. Have someone help her understand why she couldn't be consistent and what she needed to change about her mindset, about her habits, about her routine to be more consistent moving forward. And I share this story because I want this for you too, and I know, I am fully confident that I can help you get there. It is the start of 2025. We are at a temporal landmark when motivation is at its highest. It is time to make some changes if you're serious about reaching your goals this year. It's time to get intentional about reaching your goals. It's time to get intentional about your future action, because you are capable of change. You are capable of reaching your goals, but it does take intention. It takes hard work, and it takes understanding where your current gaps are and what's currently not working. I'd obviously love to support you in making this the year that the changes stick, so that next year, when I'm recording this episode in 2026, you're not back here listening to this trying to hit the same goal. You're listening to it with a new, more exciting, less frustrating goal in mind. So to recap, in order to hit your goals this year, we first have to reflect on why you didn't reach them last year. Instead of focusing on big, general, overarching goals like I just want to lose weight, we need to break it down into specific daily and weekly actions so you can take the action and also find your gaps as to why that action has been hard in the past. So why haven't the daily and the weekly actions happened, and how can we start to overcome that? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I always appreciate you guys being in here and listening to me every single week. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one to reach your goals in 2025, you can apply for coaching in the show description. Next week, we're going to be talking all about tracking calories for education rather than for restriction. I hope this is the year that you guys fully crush your goals and feel so good going into 2026. I'll see you next week.